So, fun fact, we've been without internet since February 29th. That's when we moved, and we haven't had internet since then. I know, it's fun. It's just as fun as it sounds. So, without going too much into it, we bought a house, and the house sits back from the road. There's a very long driveway. And apparently, the hookup that the cable company uses is at the corner, and it's just too many hundreds of feet away. So, we've been without internet. It's a pain. We've been using our phone data in the meanwhile, which has served mostly, but unlike the rest of you, or a lot of the rest of you, haven't been able to stream things. Haven't been able to sit and just do a Netflix binge or an Amazon binge because we don't have the data for it. At the beginning of the month, we were able to hook up sort of personal hotspots and actually get our TVs to work because we have the smart TVs. But as soon as we started using that, we used up all our data. We have unlimited data, but they start ratcheting down the speed. So we got nothing. I've got enough to sort of send this off to YouTube, and the kids can watch Ryan's Mystery Playdate and Blue's Clues. But unfortunately, it's not that easy. So I won't be able to stream probably any TV shows or movies until April-ish, which will still be in April, almost certainly. What we have been doing is we've been going through our old DVD collection, which luckily we haven't gotten rid of. And the thing we're actually watching now, of all things, is Eureka. If you haven't watched the show, I actually highly recommend it. It's a sci-fi show from the Sci-Fi Network television show from about, oh God, 14 years ago now. The concept is there's a town, I think it's in Oregon, where all of the geniuses in the world live, or all the geniuses in the United States live. And things go wrong. And the main character is the sheriff, who is not a genius, but he's street smart. And he's able to figure out all this sort of stuff, like what happened, why did this person disintegrate, why is this person invisible now, oops, we traveled back in time and created an alternate timeline, whoops. It's very silly, it's very lighthearted, it's very... You'll get into it. I think it's totally streamable. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere, but we have all the DVDs, and so we're watching it and having a lot of fun with that. But the thing I've been doing most to get away from reality has been reading, which I've always done a lot of. I usually read a couple books at a time, actually. I usually read like a hardcover and an ebook at the same time. Right now, my hardcover, actually, it's not getting me away from the current pandemic as much as it should, but I'm rereading Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. It's my favorite book of recent times. It is about a pandemic and the aftermath of, but it's the far aftermath of it. It's a very different pandemic than what we are experiencing now. But it's sort of after the end of the world and a theater troupe, and that hits certain buttons for me. It's actually a beautiful book if you haven't read it before. I highly recommend it. I'm also reading the Percy Jackson series, which I don't know if you know. It's a little bit like Harry Potter. It's a series by Rick Riordan. Percy Jackson just thinks he's a 12-year-old kid who keeps getting into trouble and has dyslexia, but it turns out he's actually a demigod. He's a half-blood in the world of the books, and he's the son of Poseidon, and there may or may not be a prophecy about him. And it's a fun series. It's written in the first person, unlike the Harry Potter series, where we get sort of this outside narrator. I enjoy reading it from the perspective of Percy. Rick Riordan, the writer, I may be mispronouncing his name, but he was a middle school teacher for years. And so he writes it in the voice of a middle school student. And I think he actually does a pretty decent job in doing it. And he's still coming out with books in the same universe today. So there's a lot of books you can go and read. But I don't know about you, but I love rereading books. I mean, there's all these new books coming out, and I'm constantly reading new books, but I love rereading books. And I just wanted to recommend the two books, or a book and a series that I constantly reread. And I don't know why I constantly reread them, but I enjoy them a lot. The one is Watership Down, which you may know as the book about the bunnies. I don't know why it hits me in a certain way, to the point where if I get another tattoo, it's probably going to be a Watership Down tattoo, but it's about a group of rabbits who one of them has a vision and they escape their warren, and their warren is destroyed, but they go off on adventures to find a new warren, and then they go off to find, does, because it's all a bunch of dudes, and they need to find women, because if you lose women, if you don't have women, your society is not going to flourish. So there's levels of it that aren't exactly to your taste, might not be to your taste, but I reread it probably once a year. And then the other book series, it's a book series by Harry Turtledove. And if you've never heard of him, he is the master of alternate history. And the thing that he does is his research is incredible. So the series that I love by him is called the World War series. And the World War series is an alternate version of World War II where we are invaded by aliens. Now, while that would make a fantastic action film, I think the best part of it is that he goes in depth, and there's it's very George R. R. Martin in that there's multiple points of view. So you get an American, you get a Brit, you get Germans, you get Japanese, you get Chinese people during the World War II, and they're all at different places at different times, obviously, and bringing to it different points of view. But you also have several alien characters. You get sort of the leader of the alien armada, and then you get several soldiers in the alien armada, and you get to understand what it's all about. Anyway, I highly recommend that series if you can get a hold of it. It's a lot of fun, and it's really interesting. But anyway, the kids are awake when they should be asleep. But for right now, it's 7:31 on March 21st.
Can I have some milk?
You can have some milk. I'll get you some milk in a second. It's 7:31 on March 21st. This is the Morse code. I am Chris Morse, and I will see you tomorrow.